Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Heroes Journey, the platform for all things comics and superheroes here at CBR. This is episode number 5. I am Sean. That is Sierra. And Sierra, do me a favor. Tell everybody who we're talking to this week.
Today we'll be talking to Scott Snyder, writer of Absolute Batman. We hope you enjoy.
Scott, I want to start here, and I'm going to embarrass you just for a little bit, but you are my absolute favorite Batman writer. There's something about the way that you approach the character and your iterations of him over the years is I've connected with him on such a visceral level. And so this is an honor to get a chance to speak to you. I wonder who that is for you. Who is somebody who you point to and just says, man, when they write Batman, something's different about it. It just elevates it for me.
Oh, man. Well, first, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate that. And thanks for having me on. I'm really excited. The obvious one for me was Frank Miller. I mean, I'm sure it's like one of, if not the most common answer, then pretty common. But, you know, when I grew up in New York City and in the 80s, I'm old. And I was about 9 when Dark Knight Returns came out, and I was a really avid comic reader. My dad took me to the old Forbidden Planet on 11th Street in Broadway.
Nice.
Every Wednesday, I had a subscription that I would get in the mail for my comics. So they would come in like a manila envelope back then. But I still loved to go to the store, and I remember very vividly the retailer handing me, who's, you know, by that point, like, it was like, oh, his name was Jack, and I would always go there and be like, you know, what's new this week? You know, and I was this eager kid, and he was like, well, this one's a little above your head, but, and he gave me Dark Knight Returns, and I still have my original copies. And the thing that was so
oh my God,
transformative about that for me was just that it was the first time, I mean, Batman, I had always loved Batman, and he tapped into something I think I didn't quite understand on an emotional level, just about standing up to the things you're afraid of. But that was the first time that it felt like his world was so immediately my own, where, you know, all these things that I was terrified of as this nervous kid in the 80s, from the giant macro level, like nuclear war and the Cold War specter, to the stuff that you saw on a daily basis in New York at that time in the 80s, you know, like the frustration with class disparity and urban decay and all that. It was right there, you know. Times Square was like right there. And so that was just it really was like a inflection point in my life, you know. So I mean, for me, Frank is, you know, is the golden ring that nobody will ever kind of claim. But I mean, there's so many. I mean, you know, Danny O'Neill, another one, like so much track laid by him in terms of not just great characters like Roz, but just whole aspects of the mythology. Paul Dini and the animated series is probably, again, as much as people sing its praises, I still think it's unappreciated. So yeah, I mean, and Grant, obviously, like Grant in the most immediate way was doing, you know, my favorite run possibly of all time at the time that I started. And not only was that amazing as an inspiration, but he was also an incredibly kind and generous collaborator and mentor.
Yeah.
So I feel very lucky to have, gotten to work with them during that period. So yeah, I mean, those are just a few, but there's a long list of, I mean, Batman is my favorite character, not just in comics, but in literature. So I feel as though there's a very storied library there for me.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it seems like there's questions about, like, what is it about Batman? And I feel like a lot of what you're doing with Absolute Batman is answering some of the core questions about why Batman, what function should he serve? Like, I think it's in issue 4 where Thomas Wayne's like, I wonder if that's the best strategy for a place in need, intimidation. And the question in you know, canonical Batman of he's a billionaire, is this the best use of his time? I feel like it's another take on answering that question. What is the best use of the Batman? And I wonder if you could talk about that a little.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, when we were doing Absolute as a concept, like the entire sort of thesis of it, the idea was to burn these characters down to their core aspects and then try and rebuild them in ways that felt really personally resonant and exciting to us now, with nothing sacred except those core elements of what makes them who they are on a character level. So there was nothing precious about Batman accept sort of the DNA. And so taking him down to the studs, like the idea was to try and figure out what that was, at least for me, when I was pitching kind of an example of what this could be. And so what I came up with for myself was that Batman is just a kid who suffers this terrible trauma, and instead of letting that defeat him or turn him dark, uses it as fuel to make the world better, and uses it as this gasoline to become this indefatigable engine of change. And that's it. And so if you just accept that, then everything else is malleable. So he doesn't need money. He doesn't need a cave. He doesn't even need a butler or Robins. The trauma can happen differently than it did. And so it became this incredibly exciting project where it was very much about, is that the most resonant and heroic version that I can create in this particular moment? Is if something even you're so used to, like Alfred as helper, suddenly feels like that actually makes him kind of less exciting, because in this moment, it feels like the more of a challenge he faces, the more of an underdog he is, the more energy he carries as somebody who kids can relate to too. And that was a huge aspect of it. So to be like full disclosure, I mean, I never planned on writing Absolute Batman. It was the one that I said I would not write no matter what. It was the template. It was the example I gave as the, like, here's the sample house. Like when you come to look at houses, and be like, you're kind of the sample. So I said, I had done this process in my head with Batman because I knew him the best out of the characters, and was like, well, you could do him like this, where instead of having money, he grows up working class. And, the trauma that forms him is more like a mass shooting. And, the Joker is rich. And those three aspects I had as a triangulation, and was like, you could do something like this. After we went to a few people and schedule and personal reasons and all kinds of stuff just kind of got in the way. And ultimately it was James Tynan who called me. I was right where I am now. It was like snowing though. And I was walking around, and he was like, I have somebody for you to do Absolute Batman. I was like, who? And he was like, you idiot. And he was
He's
saying
perfect.
to me, like, well, yeah, his point was really well taken, which was just that he was like, the thing you're most afraid of is going back to Batman. And if you're encouraging all these other creators in the Absolute line to take their biggest swings and to make this about kind of having these characters go up against the things you're most afraid of in the world and about yourself right now, that's kind of what you're afraid of. And so I took it to heart. But for me, that idea of what Batman is was so at the core of this. And the second thing that was really at the core was trying to make something that would inspire my kids the way I told you Batman inspired me back in the day. Yeah. And he still does. But, in that really formative moment when I was 9 and 10, and he became so real to me as a means to go up against the things I was afraid of. Because that's what these characters exist to do, right? They're each kind of a specialized way of going up against your fears. Superman says to you, I'm the most powerful, most kind of capable person in the world, but I see something special in you. Yeah. And that's his way. Wonder Woman is like, let me show you by example and lead you because I believe in you. And that's her way of making you brave. Batman's way is kind of be like, I don't really care if you're looking at me or not. I'm just doing my own thing. And by virtue of the fact that he gets up from this tremendous trauma, and then turns that into this kind of means to achieve like his goal, it makes it fun to root for him and be like, Batman always wins. Because even when it's comedic, like Lego Batman, the fun thing about it is, even beyond the fun, the meaningful thing about it is you want him to always win because he's the human among them that faces something that you understand as you shouldn't get up from, but he gets up from it. So here it was about... Yeah. What do my kids look out at the world and see as teenagers? I have one that's 18, one that's 14, and a 6-year-old. But the 18 and 14-year-old, the thing that impresses me so much about them and their whole generation, honestly, not to be too general, but, they see a world that's much rougher than the one I feel like we face in terms of, divisiveness and politics, but also just the problems they face feel much more daunting. Things are much more entrenched, and economically things are frightening. All kinds of things are frightening for them in these huge systemic ways. And yet, like, they are very determined not only to change the world, but to just not get beaten down by the state of things and the zeitgeist, and instead to refuse to accept things the way they are in the world such as we're handing it to them. And so that was kind of the lens through which to examine this kind of burned down to his core Batman and rebuild him, to say, well, what would make him exciting to them? Well, they've grown up with this fear of school shootings and mass shootings from kindergarten. And my son had an incident, who's 18 now, when he was in kindergarten, when they had a lockdown drill, and they didn't realize he was in the hallway getting water. And so he got locked out of the classroom, even though it was just a drill. And for the rest of the year into first grade, he wouldn't go to school without a thermos because he never wanted to go get water again. And,
Oh my
it
God.
just occurred. I mean, it's just these things that you realize they have very different terrors than we did.
Sure.
And Batman, if he's going to mean something to them, he's got to engage those. And, and again, like, they don't feel like they have access to billionaire stuff. Billionaires are antagonists in their world in a lot of ways. And so why not make that the Joker and make Bruce this? So that was kind of the whole, like, primordial soup of it. And that's where it came from. And to see the, young people in particular responding to the absolute universe, not just Batman, but the way that they are, has been one of the greatest thrills and really, like, joys of my whole career, if not the greatest, is to feel like you're part of something with all these other great creators that's bringing in a young readership. And it feels daunting. I'm worried I'm going to totally screw it up because I'm not young at all, but I write from the point of view of Alfred. That's the secret of the series too, is like, I'm Alfred watching Batman being like, this kid is crazy, and it's a lot of fun in that regard. So sorry, it was like the longest answer to your question.
Oh my God. And I have like 11 follow-ups. I have so many things I want to...
Please tell me more. Keep talking. Don't you worry about a long answer.
There's a panel I need to ask you about because you mentioned the kids and appealing to kids and the things that are going to connect with kids. So, Scott, going back and rereading the line now, the Batman line, from knowing where we are, there's a shot or a panel that I want to know your feelings when you saw it. It's the photograph of young Bruce and all of his friends. Do you remember seeing that for the first time? Is that a touchstone for the creativity of this the building of this character?
Oh, it was absolutely. Like, so Nick and I can't say enough good things about Nick, because the next stage of the process, when DC was like, okay, so you're going to write it. And I was like, I'm not saying I'll write it. I'm just saying I'm considering it, but I need to know if, like, the right artist is available. And the one person I thought of, and we just started putting stuff on a board and on the walls. I was describing, like, I see Batman is really big in this one. And he would draw something. I'm like, bigger. And he was like, again, bigger, like, like, and he's like the Hulk. Then I'm like, he's like the Hulk. He's like the Hulk.
Yeah.
And so when Nick drew that photograph really early, it was like, maybe even that visit, it was either that visit or the next one, he did a sketch, and it was like, we put everything up on the walls in there for a while, like taped up different sketches. And that was one of the very early ones that gave us like a totemic aspect of like what the series is going to be. It's the beating heart of it is Bruce realizing the arc of the entire thing, like the whole 40 issues or 35 to 40 issues story we have planned, and it keeps expanding as we go, so it might wind up 50 or 60 or whatever, is Bruce's realization that, like, you can't be Batman alone. You can't, to mean something, especially when you're going up against people in entrenched, powerful positions, it has to be collective. You've got to let people in. You've got to trust and be vulnerable and allow it to be bigger than yourself and share it. And so the friends and his relationships to them and his mother are just this real lifeblood of the series. It's something we'll return to in a big way. And in fact, like, the next arcs, both next issue, like the Wonder Woman one we're doing in January, is deeply focused on him trying to help Waylon, going to Wonder Woman to try and help Waylon find some way of stopping this transformation. And then the subsequent arc with Nick, which brings in Scarecrow and all of this, is largely about his relationships with his friends and how he decides all he does is hurt people, so he needs to actually shut everybody out. And it's the wrong way to go, but it brings him closer to Harley and a lot of the Red Hood gang. And so there's there's a lot of stuff coming that we're really excited about that deals with the friends. You see their designs. You're going to see Penguin and Two-Face and Riddler as he becomes who he is and all of this. But the one thing I'd say to people that like they get very like worried that we're just going to make them his villains. We're not. Like there's a really different relationship here where they are going to get antagonistic, but ultimately like there's, again, this is a world in which like, you know, people that grow up without a lot and make wrong decisions can find each other again in some ways when there are people who are deliberately awful in very powerful positions throughout this absolute universe. And so, you know, it's not hard to kind of band back together with your old friends, even if they're like never the people you thought you'd be back together with when you're facing something much worse.
Those are my favorite types of stories. I love those stories.
Right?
Yeah. We grew up on the Goonies.
Exactly. It's like, it's all that stuff. So it really is like the Goonies. Goonies is like a really actually like good way of thinking about it. You know, there's a lot of that Spielbergian like 80s kids on bikes kind of feel to this whole thing that comes back later too, like when because you know they're pretty mad at him, and they're going to be like there's a pretty heartbreaking scene in the Wonder Woman one with his friends where he goes to talk to them, and then we're doing a small story afterwards with Poison Ivy, and that one is also, it's again largely about this everything changing.
It's such a meaty thing to have him grow up among his, you know, his what's the word, like the, you know, his cast of villains. And so if you personalize that for him, I think that that's so important. And would you say that's kind of like the guiding principle of what you're trying to do with all of these characters going forward?
So for us though, the key is always like, I really enjoy, well, two things. Like one, I enjoy translating it into like complete comic book lunacy because I love that stuff. Like I love big summer blockbusters unabashedly. I've always loved like the most high stakes, most epic kinds of events, comics as well. Is why I'm loving doing KO with Josh and Javi and Hermatico. I really enjoy that stuff that feels like kind of comics can exist on a scale and widescreen sort of stage that's bigger than movies, bigger than anything. And so I like kind of taking the things I care about and then, you know, or I want to say, and then running them through like the comic book crazy sort of translator and trying to find ways of making it the most out of control, unhinged, fun version of that, so that it doesn't feel like we're talking to you about something or we're preaching about something, not because we don't have strong opinions, but also because sometimes we're figuring them out as we go as well. And a lot of it is the characters kind of dealing with it in a way that it feels like us. You know, Batman, I have a really strong belief in what I think he stands for and, you know, what he would do in certain political situations. But this isn't really a book it's meant to sort of be more about the struggle between the distraction that I think a lot of people in power, you know, propagate about us being at war with each other in all of these ways when they're in this vast chasm between people that have tremendous amounts of power and money and people who don't, who just live, you know, are living in the kind of shadow of all of that. And to me, Batman in our world is refocusing things on that. So it's easy. There's certain things that I think is the politics of it are clear, but the bigger overarching thing is a universal message, in my opinion, which is about justice, you know, and is about like Batman standing up for people that feel they're not only not getting their fair shake, but they're being lied to and deceived and taken advantage of and exploited. And I think a lot of us feel that way by many aspects of all of the kind of powers that be right now, whether you're talking about small ways like algorithmic manipulation and just the frustrations as a parent with that, all the way up to like, you know, high level, massive international corruption with things and authoritarianism. So again, I think it's a pretty easy kind of big tent kind of feel to the book when it's both over the top, knockdown, drag out fun on the surface, but we're also trying to really keep it focused on this message is that Batman exists to make you brave in the face of the things you're afraid of. And what he's deeply focused on in this is the disparity between people in power who have very bad intentions and are very selfish, and, you know, people who are just trying to survive and make a living. And, you know, if that seems highly political, I think it's a bad commentary on this moment, because it should always be something that I feel like, whether it's you're talking about, you know, religion or just morals or ethics, like, I don't think it's hard to find that message in almost everything. It's just about morality, you know, that we shouldn't disdain people that are struggling and lionize people that have, you know, made it to the top, especially when they, you know, don't do anything from that perch to seem to help in any big way at all, anyone but themselves. And again, I don't really feel bad about that being the thesis or the ethos that Batman espouses. And, you know, as long as we're not getting too specific politically, where I feel like it winds up kind of diluting the message in some ways when we do that. But overall, we're really happy with how we've been able to kind of handle that line. But I'm sure we'll mess it up sometime. I'm sure someone will get mad. People get mad all the time. They were mad at us about all kinds of stuff. They get mad all the time. I'm used to it.
If they're not mad, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right.
Yeah, I know. Well, like, I'll give you, like, if Catwoman is in the book, people that don't want Catwoman in the book are mad. If Catwoman is in the book, but they're not romantically together, Batcat fans get mad. If they fight or she's a villain, like, you are always going to make somebody unhappy. And I learned that the hard way the first rodeo. So this time I kind of feel like my skin is a lot thicker, and also, like, we never expected the book to take off this way, or any of the Absolute books. I mean, we had hoped that they would find a really, like, passionate audience, but I mean, I was just hoping that the book would, number one, might hit 100,000, and then we'd slip into, like, a solid mid-list position. But to have it kind of be where it is, where it's, you know, it's far beyond any of our expectations month after month. Like, I'm just taking it as, like, icing on icing. And last time when I was doing Batman, when Batman was selling, you know, solidly, when I was on it with Greg, there was a pressure because Batman needs to be a load-bearing book within DC's line. It has to do a certain amount. But because this was kind of expected to just be like, well, hopefully it just sells okay, and now we're up here, I don't feel that same pressure. And I wouldn't, even if there was an expectation, because I'm just older now, and I don't feel the same kind of vulnerabilities. I'm just having a blast making this book with my friends. And that's how it feels. It's like going to a treehouse every day, as corny as it sounds, but it is the most fun I've ever had in superhero comics this moment. Not just with Absolute, but with KO as well. And the whole culture at DC is so fun. I know it sounds like I've become this, like, company shell, but it's really true, because, you know, I've been with this company a long time, like, you know, all the way through a lot of big changes, moving to the West Coast, being acquired by Warner Brothers, and then AT&T, and then Discovery, and there's a lot of change that happens within all of that. Yeah. And there can be a lot of chaos when that happens, you know. But on this side of all of it, like on this side where we are now with Anne and Jim and Marie, it just really feels like this moment when they invited, you know, me and Josh back to try and, Josh was there, but to try and create an architecture for the next few years, with the All In Special being part 1, KO being part 2, more things coming soon, to try and give the lines a blueprint, but a story that meant something to all of us about Darkseid, that says who we think what we stand for as a company and as creators and all of that. And to also try and really lean together with editorial to make it really creator forward. And, you know, to try and invite creators in to do things that they're excited about, in addition to having slots that we need and saying we need this book. And it's just become such a great, like, a fun place to work, and we're really proud of who we are. And I'm proud to be, like, a small part of it. I love being there right now. So we're really excited about everything. And KO is, like, a blast. I gotta do a couple of plugs for that.
Yeah, no, I want to pivot to that right now, because we went heavy on Absolute. And KO's been a blast. I'm having a great time reading it. It is literally, like you say, the clubhouse where you're sitting around saying, okay, but what about if this one fought that one? How would that go? And so I really want to know, like, take me into the conversations about the pairings that you guys dreamed up, And I'm starting to see some of them now as I'm looking ahead on the release calendar of some of the A versus B. But was there one or two in particular where you're like, well, we have to see how this plays out if these two go against each other?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, then a lot of them are still secret because even though you see the main pairings in the fight month, things happen within those issues, and things happen like even within issue 3 that I'm writing now, where I think it's okay to say that it's like tag teams. So they can bring back characters that have fallen to be part of their so like, I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff coming that you don't expect, where it gives us second opportunities to have characters have big moments, and characters you don't expect coming into the series and being like, what? Like, I mean, we really wanted it to feel like Saturday morning cartoon on steroids, and this kind of this feeling where, because ultimately, like, two things, like, one, with events like this, like I learned with Metal, you kind of have to have 3 things, if you can, right? One is just a really good story that you love, right? And with this, as much as it is nonstop circus, like, please, like, join us on this insane cage match, it's also a really personal Superman story. I mean, I did Metal was Batman, Death Metal was Wonder Woman, and kind of this is my Superman story with Josh. And ultimately, it's about Superman being in a competition where the only way to win is to become the thing that you hate. But if you can do that, and on the other side, you and your friends and the people you care about could dictate the rules of the entire universe unchallenged forever. Is that what you want? Mm-hmm. And it's about him being tempted by all of these other heroes and villains in particular. Luthor makes a really cogent, in my opinion, argument to him in issue 2 coming up.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I used to hate you because I thought that you did too much for humanity. And you killed our own heroism by saving us all the time. But what I've realized in these times is that you do too little. Like, people want you to take over. They want you to help cure cancer, and they want you to take down corrupt dictators, and they want you to fix everything. But you don't. So you do too little, and I think you're a coward, and I'm going to do it now. And that argument to me in this particular moment, when people, again, regardless of what your political leanings are, I think, and I wear mine on my sleeve. I'm not hard to to figure out on social media. But again, like, as a Big Tent event, I think, like, what we're saying is, it's very easy to want somebody in power who will do all the things that you want to do because you think genuinely they will make things better. Mm-hmm. And yet, like, when you want that, is that really the best thing, and so on. And so anyway, so we have a story that we feel strongly about on a very personal level that feels resonant and feels like it makes a good statement about, Superman. Secondly, does the event kind of stand for who we are at this moment at DC Comics and have our priorities? And it does. Like, with this one, with Metal, we wanted to show, like, Kirby-esque fun at a moment when it felt like things were going grim. Mm-hmm. With this one, we want to show that we're a company where, we're inviting everybody in to the store to have fun, trade guesses on who's going to win. Here's some free brackets. Here's, if you want a giant issue where Joker fights Annabelle, and Vampirella is fighting this, and Homelander is fighting Superman, you have that. If you just want the main story, you have that. If you want to see Red Hood get his revenge on Joker for death in the family, you have that. Like, there's all this fun stuff. And what it's about ultimately is it's a celebration of how fun and inspiring and how crazy comics is.
Yes.
But also how unifying and inclusive, and how there's something for everybody. And that's what we want this event to feel like. And we want retailers in particular to feel like we're inviting people into their stores to enjoy. The third thing is utility, that we want to do an event like this if it has something on the other side that makes the line better, that it has functionality beyond just being like making money for us in one quarter. And so with this, it definitely does. We already started to announce at New York Next Level. We have new books coming into the main line. We've already discussed Lobo, which we can't wait for you guys to see. Batwoman.
Speaking of all of these exciting things coming down the pipe, I wanted to ask you about one of your original stories, Wytches. So I wanted to ask you about the status of the show, the upcoming show that you're co-show running, because this is your first foray into television, right?
Yeah, it's my first for it. I can't believe it. We're up to the stage now where we're all the way. We're doing the animatics of the whole first season. We get our pilot back really soon. Can't wait to see it, but we're extremely proud of the series, and it's gone great. I mean, we're almost done with production. We go into post-production in the spring, and again, I love it to death. My co-showrunner Marianne Dare, who's unbelievable. The writers on it were great. The studio we work with, Powerhouse in Austin, they're fantastic. And Kevin Coldy, the producer, does Castlevania and a bunch of shows that I love. So I feel really, really lucky. I mean, it's powering at what I guess the way that it's going to work is like they're going to hit a point when they're like, now we can open the floodgates for like who's in it, like who the cast is, what the release date is on Amazon and then it's going to be like all I talk about. I'm sure for a while, in addition to all the great DC stuff. But so until that, it's so hard to be like in the shroud of, secrecy about it, but it's going great. I'm really, really proud of it. The first season again is being animated. The second season is written. So we're really excited. We can't wait. And,
Wow.
Invincible has done great for them. So kudos to Robert and Ryan and everybody over there too, for paving the way for a lot of the kind of R-rated animated adult stuff coming. So I'm really excited for this.
You keep us in mind when you have all those big announcements to make, Scott. We'll be here.
Yeah, well, we are gonna bring Wytches back, me and Jock. That's the thing we're working on after the Joker issue. So we have it all now. I know we've said it before about we're going back to it. I'm sure I'll be in like big Wytches mode in 26 into 27.
You have a birthday coming up, and it's a chance to sort of reflect back on everything that you've accomplished up to this point. I mean, Scott, you must feel that you've accomplished more than you ever dreamed possible in this industry, as a fan to get to where you are. What's left on the bucket list? Do you have stuff that you still want to achieve in this that you feel you haven't had a chance to yet?
The way I just don't think of it that way, like bucket list stuff. I really feel like we really do, as hokey as it sounds, just this is all all I wanted to do. I mean, in my studio, I've got like the Todd McFarlane page I waited online for when I was like 13 years old on my birthday. And funny story, like I only had a couple $100, but when I finally got to Todd after like 3 hours in line, my dad was like, it's his birthday. And then Todd gave me this amazing Spider-Man page. I can show it to you if you want to see it.
Oh my God. I would love to see it. Yes.
It's actually because I actually took it in. I took it into the my house to get it just to clean it because it got dusty in there. Hang on 1 second. I'll be right back.
Show and tell. Yay.
I got up to him and I even have my DC shell. Old school. That's like the old DC logo from before.
Yeah.
I take
Company
the swag any swag I can get. I take from any summit. But so he was like, oh, it's your birthday. Let me give you a real page. And he gave me this amazing page that's worth like thousands of dollars when he gave it to me. And then he signed it on the back and wrote, happy birthday, Scott, and drew me a Spider-Man. And so anyway, like...
God, I would die. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's insane.
That's so cool.
Isn't that the most beautiful?
Scott, I got a chance to interview Todd at Comic-Con this past year in San Diego. And what I said to him, because I never got a chance to speak to him, was he was the first guy, because I was reading Spider-Man at that time. I was pulling books and collecting them when he started around 298. And I was like, you're the first person that I identified with, oh, this is a different artist. This is someone who's now translating my favorite character of all time. Like, Spider-Man's my guy.
In their own way.
And so from that point on, I was like, now I understand an artist and I'm going to follow him, this guy, right? What he's doing, because it was so different and so drastic and gorgeous, like just so beautiful to me. So this is incredible that you have that.
Well, and I'll never sell it. It's over my thing, But when I first met Todd, I told him this story, and he was like, "You owe me about like $20,000, kid," or whatever. And I was like, "But so the point I was trying to make is that like Nick and I, we both have a lot of stories like that. Where I said to Todd, I hope to work in comics one day, and that was what he was like. It's your birthday. Let me give you this, and and this is all I've wanted to do since I was a kid. I kind of found a roundabout way in because I wanted to be a comic artist, and then started writing, and then fell into writing and started writing prose. But I was always trying to get back in somehow to comics, And Nick is the same, and we were just talking to each other, and the people that we're close with, like Jock, I'm close with Jock and Craig and Raphael and Becky and they're all like that. We just feel really fucking lucky to get to do this and wake up every day and do it. And so I don't really have if you told me that I would be able to be like doing absolute Batman and it would be what it is now 2 years ago, I was happy just doing indie stuff. And if I came back and did, Detective Chimp, that was my original, by the way, like that was what I pitched that I would do for Absolute. My first one was, we'll get 3 people to do Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and I'll do a small book. Like I had this big idea at that time for Detective Chimp. Yeah. And so I would have been perfectly happy over the moon doing that. So anyway, I'm totally rambling. But
that's fine.
My point is, my point is just, I don't really think of it that way where it's like, what can I achieve or what's left to do? I just think about it like, man, what would make me happy right today? Like doing this because I'm happy in the medium. So it's like, what story would be fun to tell today? And that's it, and nothing beyond that, which again, I have some friends like James, like Tynan, he's always teasing me, or other people where it's like, there's no planning. There's no like, what are you doing in 3 years or 4? But it's just how I'm wired. I'm not really built that way. It's more like, that's the golden rule of the class I teach, is you've got to always write the story that you find most exciting that day and hope that, that you'd love to find the most that day. And that's it. So you just try and do that and hope the rest comes. Like hope somebody pays you at some point that one of them hits and does well and that, you get to go to Buffalo, but that's it. Like, so. Yeah, that's kind of it.
That's a huge part of the reason why we started this show, Heroes Journey, is because all of us are on one, right? We're all getting to that point, and there's creative stops along the way. And what we want this to be is a platform that incredible creatives like you can come on and talk about where you're at now, where you've been, where you're going. So the door is always open for you, Scott, honestly.
Oh, I so appreciate it. I think of you guys, again, like I said, CBR and we go all the way back to the, some of the first people that ever said anything kind about anything I was trying to do ever. So I'll always show up and talk to you guys whenever you want. And I appreciate what you do for comics. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Next topic, because a legend in our field, in the world of comic book films, allegedly is going to be retiring very, very soon. And this is Sir Patrick Stewart. We have heard the news this week that Avengers Doomsday, which is rumored to very heavily focus on the X-Men, specifically the X-Men of that time period, the Fox X-Men movies that featured Sir Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier and Ian McKellen as Magneto, that we're going to spend time in their alternate universe, and that these collisions between worlds might theoretically, this is me sort of putting my stamp on it, might theoretically take out that world. There's going to be an incursion that is going to remove the X-Men from the universe, which then makes sense that Sir Patrick Stewart would then say like, hey, this is not just my last performance as Charles Xavier, but I'm going to retire from acting altogether. Patrick Stewart's 85 years old. Like he's going to be 86, right? Like, so the idea that he is still acting is somewhat incredible to me. Like, I almost feel like, and tell me how you feel about this, that he's overshadowed a little bit because Hugh Jackman gets so much run for being Wolverine all these years, but Stewart's been right there with him side by side, right? Like they came in at the same time.
I think it depends who you're talking to. Like, I think there's something to be said for like Wolverine is awesome, like he's like the dude bro, like gritty, dirty, fighting kind of, but I think that the draw, the thing that people come to watch X-Men for, I don't know that it's Wolverine.
I think the part of the reason why Jackman gets so much coverage for coming back as Wolverine time after time for 26 years is the physical transformation of it. Like Charles Xavier is in a wheelchair. Patrick Stewart, he did play older and sort of frail Charles Xavier in Logan, but it's Jackman having to look ripped, every time he comes out the gate as Wolverine. So maybe there's that element of
the most dehydrated man in America. If I'm doing Mount Rushmore of important ground load-bearing X-Men characters. This is my controversial take. I don't know if Wolverine's on that. I don't know. There's a lot of characters that do what Wolverine does, and as a Canadian, I know that that's betrayal
I didn't even think
for
about
my
that.
knucklehead. But
Good point.
But is he load-bearing the same way that character, that, you know what I mean?
All right, let's get to this Mount Rushmore. And I love the way that you wanted to frame this. Instead of doing performances as the main X-Men. So, of course, for any Mount Rushmore conversation, we are picking the 4 faces that would go on the Mount Rushmore of a franchise. And Sierra was right. She was like, I think if we did actors, it's just too obvious. Let's do characters. Like, let's do the 4 characters that are most important to the franchise of the X-Men. And Sierra, I would like you to go first. Who would you like to see up on the Mount Rushmore of X-Men characters?
So I think that what is X-Men? I think that the X-Men story is the story of people who are disenfranchised, who are othered in society. And so I think that you need characters who are representative of that. And I think to fulfill the premise of what an X-Men story is, which is both a blessing and a curse, I think you need a character like Rogue.
Okay.
Who
All right.
has these very important powers, but also feels cursed within it. I think you need that sort of self-hating mutant, the person who does not get all of those same benefits. And so that I think Rogue is like load-bearing kind of character for me.
Interesting. All right. So for me, I'm going to throw out that Charles has to be in contention. I mean,
yes,
he's legitimately the founding father of the team. He has been the core, center of the team. He's done the most for arguably him and Magneto have done the most pro and anti for mutant rights amongst humans, them taking 2 sides of the same coin, obviously. And I don't think you can have the X-Men without Charles Xavier. So I'm throwing Charles on into his hat into the conversation.
I feel like here's the thing. I don't think that either of us could argue with both Charles and Eric Magneto being on this list. I think you need them. They're 2 sides of 2 ideological opposing forces. Like, you need a Magneto in this X-Men world because you need an antagonist.
Okay,
and a
so
sympathetic antagonist at that.
Are you putting his name
I think so.
Into the mix?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. My next choice might be relatively boring. But I do think they are essential to the identity of the X-Men. One of the core 5, Tormented. You mentioned Tormented, and a team leader, and I think it's Scott Summers. I think Cyclops has to be in the discussion, and I love Scott. I keep a little Scott on my desk. We should all keep a little Scott near us every once in a while, right? This poor man.
He's got everyone's back.
He carries the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Have you seen the jokes about James Marsden?
No. Well, maybe, probably. Yeah. I love Marsden. I think Marsden's terrific.
I think he is, but I feel like the joke about Marsden is that he's always the second male lead. He's always the other man in the triad, the love triangle situation, the beleaguered. What a lovely guy, incredible actor. But I do think that's really funny consistently in his filmography anyway. And I feel like he plays the beleaguered Scott very well. Please continue. Sorry.
No, you're right. He's the perfect runner-up, the guy who just doesn't quite get the girl. And that's him in the X-Men films as well, too, where Wolverine obviously steals Jean's heart away. But even when you get into, so if we're doing the comics, Scott has an extremely important role with Nathan, his kid and Cable and the whole Dark Phoenix saga and his role in that with Jean. And so, I mean, do we have Jean as well, too? I don't know. Maybe we'll get her name on the list. But for me, I'm putting Cyclops in the mix.
It's that was going to be my not like my joke choice, I guess, because not that it's but I thought that would be contentious because he is, you kind of need your boring not dad. He's not a dad, but you're boring, straight man. I'm the one who has to follow the rules so that everyone else can be fun and break the rules.
Oh, he's got dad energy. He has big dad energy, without a doubt.
Except he's such a deadbeat dad. I'm going with comics. I'm going comics. Poor Cable.
All right. Well, throw your next contender out there.
I mean, Jean Grey definitely feels like she should be in there. She's like, there's that other fulfillment of the premise of the X-Men. She should be the girl next door kind of character, but is not. Mm-hmm. She is plagued, and also formative for me as for people of my age group. The X-Men that I identify so strongly with is X-Men Evolutions. Mm-hmm. Incredible show, and so that feels like she should be on there for me.
I'm torn now because now I feel like we're getting into, there's one other name I think that I would include in this A tier, but I'm not sure that you agree with me. Because almost anybody else, I'm going to take the argument that they're probably the C team. It would be Storm. I'm going to put Storm on the list.
We're like too aligned. I thought we were going to argue today.
Are we really? Okay.
Yeah.
Storm also
that was my pick.
She's another one who has just, I mean, you're talking off the charts power. A different background than most of the others, you know, who have some born into some level of privilege, some born into some real struggle. If you're talking about like a Magneto, not having the sensitivity of a Rogue where like, I can't make human contact, you know, Aurora is kind of just like a badass goddess from the get-go kind of thing. Strong enough to contend with Cyclops to be team leader, you know, to almost say like...
It just depends on the comic you're reading. Well, this is the thing, mom energy.
Without a doubt. But like sassy mom, you know, like I will turn this car around, you know.
You're a little scared of her, and I think that's healthy, you know. Cyclops has no control over his team.
I'm putting Storm above a few names on this list, to be honest with you. And to me, when you get into the next tier where it's like this Colossus and the Nightcrawlers and the Angels, even Angels and Icemen who are original fives, they're just not there for me. They're not where these guys are. So, but you seem to have another choice, or was it Storm?
Well, she was going to be like my choice for that, but I think that this is the thing. Other people who are in the discussion, it's like there's like some swaps we could make. Like, does Mystique maybe represent another version of what Rogue offers? Because Mystique is like what an incredible character. I think you kind of need one, like somebody who is visibly different, who cannot hide the way everyone else does.
Sure.
And so that's why you like there's an argument for Nightcrawler or Beast. And I know Beast, like we have like a lot of discussion about like because which version of Beast and like which part of was mutation, which part was his own sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is they're both blue.
Yeah, true. True. I don't know. I never really bought Mystique from the comic side. Like I never really thought she was well written, and doesn't have to me like a standout arc where I'm like, oh, that's a terrific Mystique story. I think she became really popular because of the movies, and the way that she was portrayed first by Rebecca Romijn and then by Jennifer Lawrence. And so, you know, I think the popularity of that character and the fact that they kept using her in the films makes her more of a household name. Whereas if people read the X-Men comics, Mystique to me never really broke through in the way some of the others did.
From the animated ones that a lot of me grew up on, and that was my first introduction to the X-Men versus like more than the movies.
And some of the screenwriters, they just love a shapeshifter, right? Like
I love a shapeshifter.
Yeah, I know. But like, so you could play, you know, it's somebody else. And then like, that's a great visual gimmick. Well, we might have a whole new saga in the MCU of X-Men with a brand new Mystique. All right, let's not get carried away. We have 6 names that are vying for 4 slots. I think, should we move forward now with our conversation and try and narrow it down, or do you want to throw any wild cards in? And that's not a Gambit joke. I'm actually just asking.
No, yeah. Much as I like him, he doesn't belong there. I'm trying to think of like the big one, like Emma Frost in the comics. Like it holds a lot of weight, but also is like. For me, especially the way that movies portrayed her, not so much. Kitty Pryde, I always have to bring Kitty Pryde anytime we're going to talk about X-Men at all. Not because I think she belongs on here, just because I love her.
Yeah.
Just because I think she's great.
Yeah. We have the New Mutants, that are in the conversation, but I wouldn't put any of them on a Mount Rushmore necessarily. We left off a couple of villains like a Mr. Sinister or a Juggernaut. Juggernaut to me maybe, but like not above the names that we have.
No, I don't think that he offers something to the universe of X-Men more than other characters. You know what I'm saying? Like I think
Right.
there's like, I mean, maybe I undervalue the physicality of certain characters, but I just think his powers aren't interesting enough for me.
Kind of one note. Yeah. Kind of one note. All right, let's talk about our 4. I mean, I think Charles has to be there. Would you argue that Charles has to be there?
No.
All right.
Some people would fight me.
All right. Charles at number 1. Now to me it gets fun. Like, who should our number 2 be?
Eric, you can't have Charles without Eric.
You think it's Eric. Interesting. Yeah, all right, that's fine. I mean, I do think that their yin and yang is the driving force of at least so many of the early X-Men movies, and it's can mutants exist or coexist side by side with the human race, or do we accept the fact that the mutations make them superior, which is Eric's stance, and they should lead for that reason. And I think you're always going to have that sort of give and take in any kind of X-Men story that you tell.
Yeah.
I think because we were both so passionate about her, I think Storm should be 3rd. You okay with that?
I think if I'm picking between 2 characters, like for me, it's like a binary. It's either Storm or Cyclops.
Right.
I'm picking. First of all, I'm always going to pick the woman, but also it's Storm. Storm is the more interesting character on her own.
Okay. Yes. No, I agree. 100%. I agree with her power set. I agree with her personality and her leadership. And to that extent, I think that she almost knocks Cyclops out of contention because they're almost too similar, and Storm is the better version of the 2, right?
We don't need both.
So so we are down to, for our final spot, we have Rogue and we have Jean Grey. And if you're asking me, well, go ahead. Do you want to make a case? I mean, I think it's Rogue.
Oh yeah, no, for sure it's Rogue.
You agree? All right, interesting.
Because Rogue was my first character that I was like, no, she's load bearing. You need her. You need her in an X-Men story.
You did say that. Initially I was like, that's a little bit of a reach, but it isn't. It really isn't. When you think about her story, so many X-Men stories, the best X-Men stories, are people who their mutation wakes up inside of them. They're terrified by it, right? Like it changes their lives, generally not for the good. They have to seek out Xavier and his school so that they can find a place where they belong. And that's Rogue. That's like she can't have physical touch because of it. She feels like she will hurt people if she interacts with them because of the way that she'll drain them. Her power set's incredible. She can fly. She can punch the hell out of anything. She's one of the strongest of, X-Men to hold her own. But even the way that she's been written over the years, they've found a way to make this incredibly powerful character vulnerable. She's a leader in later stories as well, too. I just think there's so many interesting factors of a mutant's story that is told through Rogue. And I think that it's actually a really great choice here.
I'm glad we're aligned. This is the most aligned we've ever been on anything.
This is great. But Rogue exists in this sort of time capsule of where Anna Paquin played her, and then no one's touched the character in live action since. And I think she could be a significant part of the MCU, when they get back to telling X-Men stories. And I'm just dying to see a new interpretation of her, because I think that there's so many different ways you could play her now in 2026 and beyond.
I'm trying to think of who I would want to play Rogue. Who do we want to conscript for like superhero jury duty into being Rogue?
So here's my crazy bit about the X-Men casting. I think it should be all newcomers. The way it relatively was in 2000 when they cast them. Like those actors, Halle Berry was a big actress, obviously. And Anna Paquin, okay, so she was an Oscar nominee or winner. Did she win?
Yes, the piano did exist at that time.
Yeah. But like, they weren't like blockbuster names, you know, whereas now, like, I almost want them to do like what they did with David Cornsweet, you know, like find somebody who embodies the character and let them be the person for the next few years. I don't know if and I think of that with Wolverine, like, I like to believe that right now there's a kid out there who is going to become the MCU Wolverine, and we don't even know who it is yet. But when we see him, we're going to be like, holy hell, that guy's Wolverine, kind of thing.
I love that idea. And I look forward to our audiences yelling at us in the comments that, no, it should be this person. These are like, and so I guess we'll find out who the options even are.
Are we okay with the fact that there's no Wolverine on our X-Men Mount Rushmore?
Yeah.
You're okay with that? I
right away at the beginning said, I don't think Wolverine should be on it. I think.
Interesting. All right. Well, listen, we are going to hear it in the comments down below. So
good.
Yeah. Weigh in. Weigh in. Yeah. Tell us your Mount Rushmore. We want to hear your Mount Rushmore of X-Men characters. So head to the comments down below. Just to summarize, we ended up with Charles Xavier, Magneto, Storm, and Rogue. If you guys think you could do better, please try below. This is Heroes Journey. I am Sean. That is Sierra. We will see you guys back here next week. Hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and tell a comics loving geek about our show. We'll talk to you guys soon.